Greetings, everyone. Let me say peace, love, light to you all. Ah, it's been a while.
Let me say peace, love.
It has been a while. Um, as we see, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and majority of what is going on, or what is going on, is what many has been warned about, but ignored the warnings for years. And now everything is spilling over into your backyard. We are still in the age of awakening, where a lot of truths are coming to light. A few years ago, we told you guys, not just my platform, but many other platforms, that we are in the age of the reset. And if we don't understand what a reset is and patterns of systematic um, planning that have taken place throughout time, throughout all governmental structures, onto the people, then you're not going to understand the depths of what is going on here, now, today. And you're going to be one of those, just like how Yeshua was crucified, how all prophets of past, present, and even future shall, was, and will be by the people before the government even put hands on them, was crucified. Because we live in all ages and societies where the truth goes on deaf ears and a lie rings louder than the Liberty Bell. Understand what is happening here, now, today, in these pivotal moments. Understand what is happening in Chicago. Understand what is happening in Jamaica. Understand what is happening in New York, California, in all these states, in all these island countries, from South America to North America, with all this mass migration from the Ukrainian wars. You must know history. You must know history. Not his story, not what television say. You must do your utmost to do your own research in depth, to know history, to know what is happening, what is going on, what is the bottom line. Let's lay out a few things, for example. For years, during certain presidencies, you'll see a mass migration of folks from other countries overseas come over here into these Americas. Okay? Now people say, well, they were running from war. They were running from warfare and they needed a place of refuge. I'll give you that. But now what happens when the warfare in their homeland stops? Why don't they go home? What happens when you, the indigenous person of these here Americas, here in these here Americas, who have been here from the beginning of time, who was raided, pillaged, plundered, raped, murdered, genetically genocide, physically genocide, mentally genocide. The indigenous man and woman. I can't speak for everybody else because everyone else in this world knows their history. A Caucasian will let you know that their ancestors are of European descent. A, a coolie will let you know that their ancestors are from East, what they now call India, and so on with the Asians, the African. Now we could go deeper into saying, well, all those ethnic backgrounds that I've called out are all just Asiatic people, because that entire region of the world over there was once called Asia. The whole thing. We watched the video clip of Kanye saying, "We're the Indians," and folks in that room stopped recording immediately. Was it a lie that he was talking? Now, the average Negro mindset will go out there and say, well, that man crazy. Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. Oh, he's a buffoon. Oh, let's go back in this portion of history. And they none of them actually did any of the research. They'll always quote what the next man said. But if they took the time out, especially the ones in DC, right? And I just got back from DC last week, pretty much. And I'm going back out there. If you guys have ever went down to the Library of Congress, if you guys have even went to any museum down there and paid close attention, if you guys have pulled up the old maps, Dutch maps, the old French maps, the old Spaniard maps of what they described America as, and look at the image of who they called the Indians of the Americas, Afro hair, dark skinned people. This is important because nothing that is being said is anything new right now. Everything that is being said is repetitive, and a lot of it has went over a lot of people's heads. Now, for the time being, when I was off air, I was working through a lot of stuff that I had going on. But at the same time, while I was working through a lot of stuff that I had going on, I was making moves as well of how to be well informed, of how to be financially sound, of how to be mentally, spiritually, soulfully disconnected from this matrix environment, meaning a absolute free thinker, not go along with the status quo as everyone else. So let's break down a few things to you. Let's break down a few things to you. And y'all know me, I could be long winded and I could go back for days, but I'm going to try to shorten this and summarize this up for you guys. Every Almost every 100 years or so, they hit you with a pandemic. Okay, every couple probably 1,000 years, they hit you with an epidemic. Now, an epidemic is an actual viral or is an actual viral attack or actual spread of a viral disease on the people. A pandemic is what is called pandemonium when one spreads fear. Has nothing to do with disease. And to know this, one must know the definition, the core definition, the etymology meaning of words when they're being used out there in the public. Because if you are watching social media, which damn near everything on social media is fake. You see these skits of these Karen skits. You see these skits of people acting crazy on social media now. You see all these little video skits, and they're not telling you that it's skits. You really have to go dig and research these people's channel to find out these are skits or governmental construct of what they're implementing a lot now, especially in the Caribbean countries, what is called psyops programming. Something looks real, but it's fake. It's not real. It's to implement fear. You understand? It's like going back to the 9/11 reports that the CIA released. And when you read those reports, you see that they redacted everything dealing with Saudi Arabia in those reports. They redacted a lot of the stuff dealing with the Bush family, the Cheney family in those reports. Why? Why would they do that? Hmm? Why would they redact these things in those reports? What happened during 9/11? The most major thing, pandemonium. What is pandemonium? To spread fear. Fear was what was being that mass hysteria. What happens during a mass hysteria of a massive spread of fear across all countries, cities, states, nations, counties, municipalities, communities? You drop your guard and you give up more and more of your rights to the corporate government, to a corporate construct. You give them more of a grip every day on your everyday living, on your life, to dictate to you. Now, some people will say, well, that's communism. Dictatorship is communism, right? Marxism, which is true. Now, when they hit you with that portion of psychological warfare on you, with the fear. Oh, look at this massive attack. And they said, oh, the Bin Laden is the one that hit the World Trade Towers and knocked them down. But then now we're learning when you read the reports that Building 7 was what held the world's gold supply. That's that little small building that was in between all those tall towers. The world's gold supply was held in Building 7. And if anyone studied or ever did demolition, which I have a background in, those buildings imploded on each other, meaning they were structurally destroyed. Boom, 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 one level after another coming down on each other. Those are explosives. If anyone paid attention to even the fire chiefs back then and demolition experts that showed up on the scene, they were saying the same thing right now that I'm saying. You understand? So when they hit you with that attack on the homeland, then now you're hit with this viral, you know, thing coming out there now a few years afterwards, right? And that's what 10, like I said, every 10 to 20 years they hit you with something in the reset. Because these people plan 10 to 20 years ahead. And then they plan generational, decades ahead, 50 to 100 years ahead when it comes to specific things. And all their plans, one after the other, fall in line with each other. This is passed down from bloodline to bloodline to bloodline to bloodline. Okay? We're the ones that's out of the loop to what's going on. And when there's panic and when there's fear in the public, there's a lot of movements behind closed doors happening in private that you don't even know about. You understand? Because now they got you focused over here. They have you focused over here. They have you looking left when you're supposed to be looking right. And when you're supposed to be looking straight forward, they got your ass looking backwards. The reason why I'm saying this, because when you start going back into when you start really researching even the pandemic, as they call it, right? Of the vid, the communities, what were the communities that they say were mostly affected? They said what, the black or African American communities, or as they describe us, and then they go to the Hispanic communities that were mostly affected by the vid. If folks don't see the caste system implementations right there, I don't know what to say. Especially during the Cuomo era in New York. You know, the underlying attack is on those who they deemed less than them, which are indigenous people of the Americas, those who do not have an identity or who do not know their identity. Historically, we've always been getting bombarded with psychological warfare, with chemical warfare, biological warfare, and physical, in the bombings of our cities, in the destructions of our schools, in the destruction of our businesses, in the mass arrests, just like the three strikes bill that Joe Biden passed and wrote many years ago, to take a lot of fathers outside of the home, to create single mother households. And how many of our people passed during the vid era? And now they're telling you that there's a new vid coming out soon. They don't know when, but it's coming. These people aren't psychic. These people aren't the fates. They don't have foresight to see something like that. Knowledge is power, people. Knowledge is power. I watched I watched a video a little while ago. This is what made me jump on here. right? I was watching a video a little while ago that was sent to me by a friend of mine's. And I guess it was a lady at one of these community hearings cursing out one of the politicians or the politician, right? Off what is I believe it was Chicago. And the sister was she was a cursing. She was well spoken. And she's letting it be known that here comes all these folks coming in, flooding in from across the borders, from Syria, from uh, um, Mexico, from Libya, from Ukraine, and all the Chinese soldiers that they're sneaking through Mexico, through the Mexican borders, that is jumping on luxury buses, being guided by the U.S. military to come into Northern America. And all the folks, all the Mexican prisons that are emptying out their prisons of all their most violent inmates and are sending them over into the Americas. And before this even came to this grade of light, to where even these Democrats and these Republicans and all these Negroes that are into the voting structure system start seeing, oh shit, look what's happening there. All these folks are coming into our communities. They're not going up in Beverly Hills. They're coming into your communities. You understand? This is what is called a reset. So when we say, all right, we are the original indigenous people, they say, no, no, you're not. Niggas came from Africa. No, we did not. The governmental records show that we did not. All the historical records show that we did not. When you go to the Library of Congress and do your research, when you go into the Archival Library of France, when you go into the Archival Library of the Dutch, when you go into the Mexican Archival Library, when you go into the Cuban Archival Library and you do your extensive research, you even see that the Amistad ship was nothing but Cubans, not Africans. And we sit here and watch this social construct warfare happen on us, to where these people will tell our history but change key moments in history, or key words or names of who we are. Like, it's a joke. Like, even the movie Black Panther, you keep hearing them saying Wakanda, Wakanda, Wakanda. Well, Wakanda is an Indian saying meaning God. That is the name for God, is Wakanda. You understand? The panther, the jaguar, originated in the Americas before colonial forces started taking it out of Americas and bringing it over into other parts of the world. Why is that important, Dark Man? Why is that important? It's important because it's what they've done to you. And then they created a school system to put your children in, to educate your children that they are not who they are, and that the Asian people who are now calling themselves Native Americans were the original ones here. That's a reset. Then they use the popular faces in your community, the dudes that are heavily indoctrinated to them in their fraternal and soror orders, to convince you that you are not who you are, by leading mass movements. And then when those men and women start waking up and saying we could no longer continue with the lie, they assassinate them. Malcolm, Martin, Noble Drew Ali, understand? Now you have these influx of migrants coming into the land. Yeah. And they're getting the best education. They're getting hotels. They're giving them 5-star hotels to stay in. Yeah. While I'm walking through Broadway Junction in New York, hmm, I'm going through portions of DC. I'm at the Metro bus depot bus station there in DC, and I'm watching all these homeless folks laying down sleeping in blankets. I'm at the the Penn Station out there in Newark, watching all these homeless folks out there laying down in blankets. Most of these are Negro people, and you can't get a 5-star. They can't get a 5-star hotel to stay in for migrant programs. And you know what really pissed me off is the fact that a lot of the migrant programs that I've went around so far, because I went around with my investigation, are led by or are being worked by a lot of people that look like us. And the jobs that they're giving a lot of these folks, because they're showing them how to go get their license without any form of paperwork, and then how to use that license to go drive Uber, to drive Lyft. Do you understand what's going on here? Hmm? Now, as a person that was once homeless, me and my family, we didn't get those opportunities. Watch the video of when they attacked these cops in New York. Yeah, because it's. I told y'all it was coming. I told y'all that they're gonna start flooding in a massive amount of these folks because it's war on you. Everybody else is just collateral damage. It's war on you. It's to push you out of your communities. While they were foreclosing on your houses, while they were skyrocketing the rents on your houses, these folks come in, they take over the real estate industry. So now, when these realtors, or especially the Hispanic realtors, are looking for our clients, they're telling you, the Negroes, oh, no, no, you don't want in this community, like what Caucasian folks tell y'all. And they lead you somewhere else. And then that house that you saw that you could have gotten for a big deal, it's now an Hispanic person in there. And then they moving the entire family in there. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you why it's not good for us to stay divided. And this here is why I have some respect for these people. They move their entire family in one home, two, three generations, and they all work together, all get jobs. Then they buy the next home next door to them, and then some of them move out of that house, the first house, and move it to the second house, and they gift over the first house over to one of the family members, put everything in their name. Then they get the second house in your neighborhood that you've been living in for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 fucking years. Generations of y'all. Hmm? Had your houses. I mean, I watched a lady lose her house that she's been in for 60 years, and they told her that they foreclosed on it because she owed. How is that possible? 60 years. That means there's some type of real estate. Well, we know there's a real estate fraud going on. Hmm? No way in hell. They stole this lady's house. Who lives in that house now? I'm sure y'all a pattern. So what's going on is, another thing that's going on is this: the Jewish people, or the so-called Jews, buy up all the houses, and they only rent to majority of Hispanic folks. And while they're telling you that there's a credit score system. Oh, your credit score has to be at this level, and so on. So they're not telling them that. Like I watched, there's a lady that lived across from me. She lived in the house from 1930. 1930. This lady knows she's American Indian. She knows she's indigenous. When you go in her house, she has two very old maps of the Americas with Negro faces being called Indians on these maps put up in her house. She has uh like a totem statue that she says has been in her family for generations. A little small carved one that's a family artifact. She said it, she said it's older than her. That means it's a few hundred years old. So this lady know who she is, right? She passes away. Her descendants didn't know what to do with the property. They sold it to a Jewish guy. That Jewish guy had his Mexican workers work on the property and rented it out to the Mexican construction workers' family. Then the home next door to that one is another elderly sister, two of them. You go inside again, and this is what this that generation knew that this generation is ignorant to their true identity. And the reason why I know this because before these ladies passed, every winter I shoveled their walkway, their driveway, their steps. I laid down salt for them every winter. Went inside their homes, had conversations with them. One lady, she sold Avon. And you hear them speak on when the community only had lanterns for streetlights. This is how long they've been in the community. And this lady, one day I seen the city come and saying that they're doing a wellness check on them. And I looked at my mother. I said, they're about to take their house. I said, give it 3 months. They're going to take that house from that woman. And it came to light. In 2 months, they took the house. In 3 months, you see one of the ladies, she could have been, I believe she was like 90, walking on the streets with a shopping cart, digging for cans in a garbage bin. The same Jewish guy that bought the first house next to hers from the other lady who passed away was the one that got that house. And the same workers, family members, are the ones that also rented out that house. I'm showing you guys something here. The pattern that's going on. And why do I say this? Because now when you go into branches of government, it's not a lot of people that look like us that are in branches of government. And the ones that do look like us, a lot of them are Sambos. You understand? Meaning that they are fraternal order people. So their allegiance is to the fraternity. You are not a part of the fraternity. And these people only come out and want to do right when shit really hits the fan and they realize that majority of you are waking up to what's going on. It's like the New York mayor that when it started telling folks, oh, the New York City water is safe to drink. But if anyone understands what tritium is and understands that even in the tri-state area, if you go to Connecticut, you go to Jersey, You go to the tri-state area, right? And you get a pot, get one of those pot, a black pot, preferably a black pot, and you boil that water till the last drop. Don't burn the pot. Boil the water to the last drop. Cut it off, leave it, let it cool down, leave it for a day or two, come back and wipe your hand around inside that water. It's going to be caked up with a white powder. Caked up with white powder. Yeah? The reason why I say that is because when you fill that water without boiling it in a clear glass, it looks clean. It looks clean, but it's not. Now, the New York City mayor went and he did the so-called drinking the water test. Look at it. New York water is clean. It's good. And a lot of Negroes ran behind him because he has our complexion. The reason why I'm saying this is we are in the age of enlightenment, where we're in the age of free minds and free thinkers. And those who go along with a person because they have our complexion, those who go along with a person because, oh, well, we don't want to see a Caucasian in that position, those who go along because of popularity, you're the ones that are going to be left behind and led astray. You're the ones that are still caught in Babylon's system, as they say. You're the ones who is not of Christ mind. You're the ones who threw the stone. You understand? That's you. You're a follower, not a leader. You're not an independent thinker to say, well, if the mayor before or the governor before said that, for over 20 something years, this power plant was leaking this radioactive fluid in the groundwater supply, how then, in such short period of time, is this water safe to drink? When anyone knows that even radiation in a microdose or a large amount takes years, decades to fix, to correct, to clean in the drinking water supply, to clean from out of the soil itself. Hmm? And folks ran and said, oh, yeah, yeah, we want to drink that water. The other day I was in also Virginia. I'm going to show y'all something. And when I was in Virginia and I'm buying water from off the shelf and I'm looking at the back of their water, it has no ingredients in the water. When I Google the water to see if, if maybe they're hiding something, and you're reading about these water on Google, and you're reading about them through all these other search engines. No ingredients, nothing. It's clean, pure water. I took them home, I boiled them, I did all that. Nothing came up out of them. I come back down here and I look at the back of the all they in our supermarkets, all they have is Dasani and Poland Spring and all of that. And you look at the sodium factor that's in these waters, the hidden chemicals that they have in these waters. You know, you're drinking the water, you're drinking the water, and the water is supposed to be fulfilling, right? But it's not making you feel fulfilled. It's making you feel dried out, like you need to drink another bottle. A few minutes pass, you're drinking another bottle. A few minutes pass again, you're drinking another bottle. And your system is just feeling dried out. You're just feeling more and more thirsty. That's because of the hidden chemicals that they have in the water. Now, when I went out of town, I was in a multiracial community, right? But it's multiracial, but it's my friend is not gonna like this, but it's a swirlers community. Hey, whatever floats your boat. I'm not knocking it. You know what I mean? That's your thing. That's your thing. That's your thing. I don't care. But I'm just showing you the difference in particular areas and particular communities where if in areas where it's a lot of indigenous people and in areas where the population of indigenous people are being bred out or mixed into, the food supply is different, the water supply is different. It's more wholesome, it's more organic, less chemicals. In areas where it's a lot of indigenous folks, our people, the food supply, the water supply is trash. Why is it? What does this have to do with 9/11 and all these other different things? Well, it has to do with a plethora of things. You're drinking that poisonous water, that caked up water with that hidden compound. That's death within in it's death. That unseen chemical compound unless you boil the water. That's the only way you'll see it. That is a chemical attack. Now what does that do? That coats your lungs. Now here you have breathing issues, asthmatic symptoms, all these things. If it's coating your lungs, it's also affecting your heart, it's affecting your kidneys. It's making it more harder and harder for your kidneys and your liver to filter out the toxins that they're supposed to filter out of your body. Hmm? It's damaging your skin. And now, if it's coating your lungs, imagine what it's doing to your brain, the main organ that you need to make sure that all the other organs are functioning how they're supposed to function properly. Your brain that is supposed to make sure that you have cognitive thinking skills. Your brain that also deals with your psychological capacity to operate in this world. Your brain that is supposed to soak up information like a sponge to make sure that you are capable of being educated and taking information and disseminate information. You understand? This is why now in our communities, the illiteracy rate is higher than anywhere else in any other community. It's damn near at about 70 to 80%. See a lot of these young folks out here doing the most outrageous things. And then when you hear some of their parents talk, especially the young parents, you're like, damn, where is this coming from? When you're fed poison, hmm, and when you're taking in poisonous things within your system, you're going to act like what you take in. You get me? When you are taught in these school systems that you have no culture, no identity, that you only came from slaves, but they can't tell you beyond that. You have no ancestry to identify with. If you're taught that you are only slaves, then you're taught to think in a slave capacity, work to be a workhorse. You have less care for the land that you live on because you think it's not yours. You think it belongs to someone else. So you'll fight to leave the land that is really yours to go to another man's land than to stay in your home and fight for it. Now we'll say, well, we got to put one of ours in the political system. Nah, we have to come together, work with each other, put our financials together, and build our communities together, private communities. Even if it means you have to buy back land that's ancestrally yours. And then when we build a strong economical community together outside of their political system, Start participating in their voting structure system. To start coming together, building back your own towns. There's a plethora of empty land out here. Once you start doing that, then now you could go at these folks on the international stage, at their United Nations and all these things, and let it be known who you are. Because they have to destroy you on an education level. They have to teach your children all sorts of buffoonery. Understand? So when you're thinking this is not your land, and you have migrants coming in, these migrants are claiming what is called eminent domain. And when they claim eminent domain, it now means that they've claimed the land as theirs. Then these migrants start creating governmental construct groups such as Taino. And then these folks, who are the descendants of the Spaniards that invaded the Americas, start claiming that they are the indigenous people of the Americas. And if you look in the beginning of their construct, you'll see a highly motivated racial disparity that didn't come to the forefront until we started pointing that out. And when you go into their group atmosphere and you say, hey, but no, the images that you guys are showing are redrawn images, and you start showing the original images of what the people look like, then you start seeing all the racial attacks that they give you in those groups, and then they block you and they ban you from those groups. Meanwhile, your government have given these people land, school systems to re-educate back folks, especially in the islands. Oh my God. Like they'll say, well, the Taino people are the Taino people of the that speak the Arawakan language. Well, how are you Taino people but you speak Arawak? You know what I mean? That don't make no sense. Or they'll say the Taino and Arawak, but then they'll tell you Taino is Arawak. But when you're using words like and, that is separate. You understand? That is separate. They're separating. But if you do your due diligence and do your proper research, you realize that even the term Taino goes back to Umbria, North Umbria. And even then, in that research, in that portion of the history, it tells you that these were folks that came and stolen identities of the people of that land and many lands before that. And you could tie these people back to these Ashkenazis who have been kicked out of from before Hitler era, out of every country, every landmass that they've ever been on, because they've gone in and they've stolen the nationalities of the people, stolen their lands and their resources, and genocide off their people. Even in the 1920s and going into the 1930s, when they were running insurance scams, where they was telling indigenous folks to be insured and killing them for the insurance money. Why did I bring that up? Because it's still happening today in your entertainment industry. Your popular artist dies, but no one is looking at the fact that the label has life insurance on the artist. You understand? And majority of the people in the music industry are Negroes. And who runs the music industry? Jewish people, so-called Jewish people. Who's over there in Palestine slaughtering the Palestinians with the backing of the United States government? Jewish people. Why is this important? Because this goes back to the Balfour Letter of 1990, is it the 1919 or 1928, where they signed over portions of Palestine to the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds brought in a mass migration of these German folks from Germany over to that land, and then they created what is called the State of Israel from that through billions of dollars of backings from the U.S. government. And this is how you have Israel came about. Okay, just like Mexico, Hispanic, Latinos is created. Mexico, Mexico isn't the real name. Yeah, it's Mexica. Yeah, that's why they say they say that over there that they describe there's two folks. They have the indigenous folks that they call the Mexicans, and then they you have the colonial folks that they call the Mexicans. And the Mexicans are the ones who are blocked, subdued, blocked off from majority of Mexico, can't go to certain places because of their dark skin, and they're the ones that they call Afro Mexicans. I used to run an Airbnb, so a lot of people that will come from even Peru and these different parts, and when we're having conversations, and I bring up that even the Afro Mexicans, they get so silent. They get silent. They stop. The conversation stopped abrupt immediately. It's you that just don't know who you are. Understand, man. Everything that has been happening, the underlying thing is to get you out and get them in. Get you out and get them in. I went to I can't remember the name of the museum, but I went there for the Year of the Dragon celebration out in DC, right? And while walking around the museum, I took pictures of some of the artifacts and some of the writings that they had on the wall. And they have a picture of uh, some dark skinned folks and some European folks. And when you read what it says in the picture, it says black and white slaves. Black and white slaves. Why is that important? Because again, everything that you've learned about slavery in the Americas has been, well, 99.9% has been a lie. Now you would have to ask yourself, what? How is there white? Maybe that person was mulatto. No, 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 no. Slavery in these Americas was always an indentured servitude type of thing, and the capturing of prisoners of war. Now, who are prisoners of war? The indigenous folks that was fighting against the colonial forces. Then, when they became prisoners of war, they became enslaved. Now, who were the folks that were enslaved in these Americas? What did they look like? Hmm? Wake up, people. All of this is for foreign entities to claim eminent domain on your lands, your ancestral lands, while pushing you out. This is the Great Reset. 25 years ago, Brazil was 85% Negro. Now it's down to 49%. If you go back and you study the history of Mexico, if you go back and you study the history of Mexico, you go back and you look at what the people used to look like 100 years ago in Mexico. You understand? Go back, study these places. The proof is still there. They're only blocking them out on Google and these different search engines now. But if you're in these areas, go down to these areas and look into their archival records for yourself. Argentina also, exactly, even Argentina. And this is not just a thing that's happening in the Americas, it's something that's happening worldwide. You understand? And I always tell folks start off with your family history first. Your family history before you branch off anywhere else. That is key. That is important. And the reason why I say that, because that shuts down all the naysayers. Because when you start off with your family history and you find when that one aunt or uncle was saying, we got Indian in our family, and you started finding the family history, you shut down all those pan fries that is trying to tell you, like those Umar Johnsons and stuff, that know the truth, but because the Pan African community is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry, they will never tell you the truth because they profit from it. You shut them down because now you're not speaking for the masses of people, you're speaking for yourself. And no man outside of you could tell you who you are outside of yourself. That shuts down all they talk because you're keeping it to you, to me. You see what I'm saying? Like I say, my family's lineage and ancestry is Arawak Indians. Going back down to even the Polynesian culture. Now people say, oh, Hawaiians. But these people don't call themselves Hawaiians. They call themselves Polynesians. And if you study the history of the Polynesian culture, going back to King Kamehameha, you see what King Kamehameha looked like. Now people say, oh, he's talking cartoon, Dragon Ball Z. No. The name Kakarot, all of those names are Indian names. The name Kamehameha that Goku uses is the king of the Hawaiian Islands, the man to combine all the Hawaiian Islands under one, which was a dark skinned man. You research his family, his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and then you start seeing where they started becoming bred out when the Japanese started invading and they opened the doors for the pale Japanese to come in. And then you go ahead and you start researching Japan and go back 100 years, 200 years into Japan, and you see that the Japanese then were mostly dark skinned folks. Then you go into China, you research China, where the Chinese act like they've never seen a dark skinned man and woman before in their life. And you start researching that right now today. There are provinces all over China that has millions of Negroes that they hide from the public. These are the people that you have started giving political power to here in these Americas. And they do it because this is not their land. This is not their ancestral home. This is why they do it. Oh, why are they doing this? Why? Because it's not their home. It's your home. It's not for them to take care of your home. It's for you to take care of your home. But in order to take care of your home, you must clean house first. Clean your house up. I mean, all these Sambo Negroes out here talking all this foolishness. All these children out here being disrespectful to their elders. Check them. All these gang infested communities, check them. Like I was watching the thing with Cam Newton when they tried to jump him. And it's the same dudes throughout all the other same video footages disrespecting this man. Now, no one isn't looking at it like, well, it's very few athletes, celebrities that come out to these events anymore. They're not looking at it like that. That showcase children that look our children, their talents. This man comes out, he uses popularity, he used his program, he used his name, he gave his time, he spends hours out there. to bring notoriety to these children. And here you have hating ass dudes that attack this man. We must clean our house first. When we see our brothers doing wrong, when we see our sisters doing wrong, we must check them out of love. Because if the next man comes and check us, it's going to be brutal. Wake up, people. Changes with us within our community, true power isn't going to come from these political figures. It's going to come from you knowing who you are. It's going to come from you knowing true history and the indigenous ties that you have to these Americas. One thing with certain laws all over the world, it doesn't change. A corporate construct cannot govern or rule or have jurisdiction over that which is indigenous. It is unlawful. It is illegal. It it goes against universal law and even their handwritten laws because a corporate construct is a foreign entity, and a foreign entity can't have jurisdiction over that which is natural. You understand? Because a foreign entity is unnatural. It's like when a virus hits the body and the body goes to fight the virus to purge it from the body. The virus is a foreign entity. It is unnatural. And the creators of the virus will create many different circumstances in the environment to make it hard for you to fight the virus. Pollution in the water. Now, that same white coating that's in the water supply, when you boil out the water and you see the white rim around your pot and you put your hand in the pot and you wipe it around the pot and you see that it's caked up, it's the same white powder that they have that they call wax covering the fruits, your vegetables. Wake up. So now, when the cancer rate and these different rates of brain damage, heart failure, heart attacks, heart murmurs, diabetes, sickle cell, all these different type of things is skyrocketing now in your community. You're being genocide. Then it's, oh, we got a community, we got to give you this vaccine, but the vaccine caused more issues than it actually solved. You're being genocide. Food ain't supposed to have wax covering it. That they tell you that, oh, you gotta make sure you gotta soak this down 45 minutes in apple cider vinegar. And even when you do that, it still doesn't take it off. You literally have to scrub that shit off. Get a knife and scrape it and put it back down in the vinegar soak and scrape it till nothing comes off on the knife anymore. Get a brush and brush it and brush. That is what? All that work just to juice a piece of fruit when majority of the nutrients in most fruits are in the skin. So now you have to get rid of the skin because you can't use the skin no more unless you're growing your fruit yourself. Pandemic, spread of fear, social engineering, programming of the young minds. These are planned attacks. False education of young folks. While the generation that knows the truth, you paint them as crazy, conspiracy theorists. And because each generation of young folks get more ignorant because they're only attracted to the flashiness of life and the flashy lifestyle. And yeah, I'm getting money now, so what you saying don't make no sense to me. But now when they get older, they realize the damage that they too have done. Hmm? But by that time, you've done in your generation of ignorance, you've done destroyed 4 or 5 generations that's to come. So this is why I say those who are woke, truly woke, like-minded individuals, clean your house. If your house don't want, if the folks in your house don't want to be clean, come together with like-minded individuals and build with them. You understand? Because you are in a fight. You're just not seeing it. And if it's taking an overrun of migrants in your communities to see it, and to see that these 5-star hotels opened up for these folks, but not for you, but not for you, because that's their people. The folks that run these hotels, they're not your people. That's their people. So they're going to take care of their people. While we have massive amount of gatekeepers in our communities. Wake up. No, don't be scared for your sons. Teach your sons what's happening in the world today. Teach your sons their history. You know what I mean? Going to school, learning that you come from slaves, don't build no form of pride in you. But learning that you come from the indigenous folks of the land, and learning that still to this very day, when you go and you research even the space inventions of NASA, that they came from the greatest Negro minds. The same folks that they were telling, well, you can't use the same bathroom as these folks here. You got to walk 5 miles to the next bathroom before you could come back to work. Those are the people, the same people that created these instruments that these doctors use today. Those are our people. Once you instill these teachings in our children, and you try to stay the best you can away from these polluted foods, you will raise the most independent and greatest minds of tomorrow, and brave-hearted folks of tomorrow. Because the ones of today, man, like this is it, people. There's a new system coming in, of a monetary system that's coming in. You got to be on that. The dollar's going dead on the international market. It's not going dead on the local market, but it's important because when it drops in value in the international market, it drops in value in the local market. Why is this important? You take advantage of the dollar now to purchase things that builds wealth: gold, silver, real estate, ETFs, bank bonds, sureties, securities, things that build in value over time. While the dollar is depleting in value, these things are building in value over time. Take advantage of the crypto market while you can. I'm not a number one fan of crypto, but I'm no dummy neither. You know what I mean? I know you take this crypto, you make this portion of money from this crypto, you transfer that crypto, the profits from that crypto, into an IRA or into a cash value insurance policy. Transfer it over. For those who work for companies that have went out of business, or you know someone that worked for a company that's going out of business and they're getting that severance package payout, have the company transfer the severance package payout into your IRA, because they tax those severance packages. This is also why it's important to know your indigenous, that you are the indigenous folks of this land, because it takes you out of the tax bracket also as well. And this is why they created the Bureau of Indian Affairs to put blockage on people that look like us and say, "Oh, we only recognize the federally recognized," because those are the Asian folks, descendants of the Asian folks, the first set of Asians that came here that contracted with the U.S. government. You understand? That's why they recognize those tribes, and that had mixed in with us also. But the Indians who are off the reservations, which are the wild Indians, you were thrown in the projects, you were thrown in the slums. You are the unrecognized, but still recognized. Because even in the laws, it says the Indians off the Constitution, off the reservation. And the Indian off the reservation is supposed to have the same amount of recognition as the Indian on the reservation. You understand? And the Indians off the reservation are the ones that live in the projects, that live in what they call the slums, the ghetto. That's you. That's us. Understand? Financial literacy is very important to learn. Understanding cash value insurance policies, understanding IRAs, these are very important to learn. Understanding how to take a debt and turn it into profit. And understanding how to use your house, the equity on your house, and turn it into a business. Turn your house into a business or raise the equity on your house to then go ahead and reinvest back into other investment properties. How to use your insurance policy to go into real estate and take out several policies over time. And that every time, if you pass away, that portions of that money goes back into the policy to keep the policy growing and growing and growing. And that policy passes on to descendant to descendant to descendant to descendant. This is generational wealth. Okay. This is where power comes in. Power don't come in of walking down the street running off your mouth saying that you're protesting if you don't have the financial backing. Okay. And if you notice, financial literacy, people, financial literacy is key. Starting communities where you're educating each other on how to properly invest, and don't beat each other in the head charging folks an arm and a leg for some of these things when you know that you could charge a fair price and still make your profit while still giving folks a chance to learn. I remember there was folks out there in the communities that was charging folks $5, $7, $800 just for consultation for an hour. When folks used to send me the emails of these well-known people sending them back those invoices for even $1,000, to me that's ridiculous. But anyway, folks, I'm about to get up out of here. I will be back. I will be back. I'm going to also try to line up a stream with Arawak and the ICCC as well, and see if we could do something in the future. But man, I had to come on here, because I couldn't sleep. The spirit would not let me sleep unless I just came back and said something to you guys. You know, it's important that you guys take time to get your affairs in order, to learn the financial system, to learn things that gain value It's important. It's important that we work together. If you each have your own personal things that you're going through, sort it out, work through it, then come together. If there's people out there that can work with you to help you sort out your personal thing that you're going through, work with them. If they are righteous folks, you know, like there's a lot going on in this world. And I'm not telling you that you can't work with any other ethnic groups out there. But when you're working with different ethnic groups, make sure that there's an understanding. It's not a one-sided thing where you're getting screwed over on the back end. That has been historically what has happened to a lot of us over these past few generations. Okay, like this is the world is big. It's not a small world. Television make it seem like it's a small world. There's land out there that majority of the folks in this world has never even seen yet. All right, but I say love to all of you folks, man. To everyone in the chat, Miss Nia, honor to you. George Witcher the third, honor to you. Young Cherokee Peasy, honor to you. Chief Kowishoto. I don't want to, you know what? I don't want to dismantle your names. I'll just say Chief, right? Honor to you, Brother Fleming. Honor to you. Shatahaya, honor to you. Sister Sophia, honor, honor. Brother Bronze Flat Power God, honor to you. Like know our history, man. Know financial literacy and knowing our history is key. Brother Burdock, honor to you. And the reason why I say knowing our history is also key because in history they'll divide us, and there's still this thing with mainland folks and island folks discriminating on each other. When you actually do your history, you realize that mainland folks and island folks are the same bloodline people. Same bloodline people. It's just throughout the Civil War and all these different wars, we became separated. Throughout the first set of waves of invasion, the second waves of invasion, some left from the mainland and took to what is now called the West Indies slash and or Caribbean. You understand? And this is how we became separated. But for for years, up until the early, I think, 1930s, we didn't need paperwork to come to the mainland, nor did you need paperwork from the mainland to go over to the islands. You didn't need these things. It wasn't until generations passed that the corporate structure, so that we were still connecting with each other, they created this migrant system of green cards and visas and thing. And now people are being forced to marry to come to the mainland, and then mainland folks didn't even know that they could go to the Caribbean and get, what I mean, their stay and all this type of stuff. It's just so much things. But when you go back and you study the old maps, you'll see that the entire Caribbean and mainland was all called America. When you study their Columbus story, you realize that the place that Columbus went to, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Cuba. That's it. Then when you go back and you study the map again, like the maps of the Dutch, the French, the English, the old maps, it marks the entire South, North, and Caribbean as all America. Now, when you study language of today, when they say yes, North America and the Caribbean, they're only separating it because of a caste system. So they're using the language to try to separate it. It's programming as a caste system to make you think that you're different from the folks of the mainland here, to make you think that you're different from the folks of the Caribbean. You understand? You're not one of the same bloodline with the same people. We are the same people. Just colonial forces separated us and make us think that we're different. We're really not. All right. When you hear them, we could even go back to even biblical concept, or when they speak of Yahshua and Christ and all these things, and what was the true birth land of Yahshua. It's not across the waters, I tell you that. But I mean, that's these are things for a different time. These are things for a different time. But I just say, just work together, man. Wake up, work together, clean your house. Financial literacy. You start teaching your children financial literacy, you start teaching your children their ancestral identity, and you will empower them in such a way that the earth will shake. It will be like thunder roaring, and you feel the vibrations going through the earth. You know what I mean? So, yeah, folks. Original Lone Wolf, honor to you, brother. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. Peace, love, light. Safe travels to those who are on the road if you are on the road. You know, have a wonderful day at work for those who are at work, whether it's day, night, evening, whatever it is. Enjoy and peace and love to you guys.